Hello.
Everyone. Hello. Hi, lovely people. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Hi, Annette and Casper. I can see you in the background. Ooh, you have
Hello.
the shirt on. Hi, Jerome and Mika.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Anne.
Nice to see everyone.
Where's?
What's that?
Yeah. No, I was about to ask people where they're joining from, but I know you have that as a
I
check-in, so
do,
I'll
but
reserve it.
everyone, if you want to say hi in the chat and just give maybe a little gif of how you're feeling right now, we can start like that before we get started.
I'm always like this, though, so I don't know what's different.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. Rachel, just give us the go signal whenever you want to. You're comfortable with starting, and then I can do the welcome. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's wait for a couple more people to pop in here because I know a lot of people RSVP'd. So everyone's excited. I like that.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to thrive in creative communities? You hope this in with the thrive, man.
Dinner there. So it's about noon where I am. So I think we've got a lot of different time zones here.
Yeah. This has been my food for the day, just to share with everyone. Dinner and lunch. How's that? And thanks, Simone. Hopefully you can still join in some of the exercises. That is great.
All right. How many we got? So we're going to be using Miro today, so I'll be bringing it up here shortly after Cheska does the quick intro. Give me a show of thumbs up. How many people, or thumbs up if you're familiar with Miro, or thumbs down if you're not. You can do it on the screen or with your actions. Cool. So it looks like we've got a lot of people. Yep, 2 thumbs up. All right. Is that like extra familiar with Miro? All right. Fantastic. All right. I think if you want to go ahead and get started with your intro, we can do that.
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, guys. So I'm Cheska, I'm leading growth here at Butter, and I want to thank all of you guys for being here. Whether you be in the States, in Europe, or maybe even somewhere in Asia, thank you so much for the support you've been showing us. Today, we had a full day lineup actually for our Butter Community Bash, and it's meant to give all of you guys a taster of what the Butter community is all about. So that means fun and learning, sharing, connecting with each other, and hopefully collaborating on projects as well. Obviously for Butter, I won't give it as much introduction. I want you to experience it later, but it's a tool, an all-in-one tool for workshops so that you can you can run workshops that are highly collaborative and also very interactive so that you put your focus back on energizing the workshops with ease. And without further ado, I'll introduce Rachel, who actually doesn't need this much introduction. I think her energy just matches that. But she'll be taking us through this workshop today around how to thrive in creative communities. And she actually has a lot of activities planned for us. I myself am super excited for that. And she'll be taking us through how do you find your personal truths, archetypes, and such. And no further introduction needed. Thank you so much, Rachel.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Miro board here for everyone. All right, let's load here for a second. So we'll bring you to a little bit of our purpose today. Let me give you a little brief introduction on who I am. So I don't know if any of you are already in the Butter community and have seen me around. I was part of that core community shapers team, and I'm so happy to be a part of that. I've got about 16 years experience in strategy, more recently a lot more remote workshop facilitation. And this is actually a workshop I've run in person before, and I've loved the energy of people exploring some of these personal truths and archetypes. And so you guys are experiencing it for the first time remotely. So I'd love to know what you think as we go through it. So what we're going to be doing today bring everyone, if you go to the purpose here, we're going to discover your personal truths, explore your personal archetypes, and start to think about how to leverage those in creative communities. So we're talking about the butter community today, but you know, there are a ton of creative communities out there, and not every community is for everyone, right? It's about how you align with that community, how it aligns with your truths and values, and how you can show up in that community. All right, so let's go over here to our, slide over to the right with me to our introduction activity here. And I want everyone to grab an emoji of how they're feeling right now and drag it to where you're joining from on the map. Let's see where we have people joining from. All right. Grab them up there. Jessica, I wish we had some music going on in the background for this. There we go. See, look at that. Butter does it all. All right. So we got people from all over. Fantastic. Yeah, I love seeing everyone all over the place here on the map. And if for any reason anyone's having any issues with the board, just raise your hand, give me a little emoji, we'll figure it out. All right, looks like everyone's got all their people still searching for how they're feeling. You know, if you're feeling 2, grab 2, that's cool too. All right. I should put mine, huh?
That would be good, Rachel.
I think I'm somewhere over here. I know it's a little messy world map I've got on there. All right. Give me a little thumbs up when you've placed your emoji. Give me a little react thumbs up there. Cool. We've got, all right. That's a lot of thumbs up.
Fantastic. A lot of Casper.
Fantastic. All right. All right. I think we got a little more here. I think we could go ahead and stop that.
Yep.
Looks like everyone's got their emojis over there. All right. So first thing I want to do, I want to get everyone talking to each other. So I want us to pair up. I'm going to explain a little bit about this first. And then we're going to go ahead and break you into some breakout rooms where you're going to interview each other. So these are the questions that we're going to ask each other. First things first, make sure you know where to go find your heads up display. So everyone's going to have a little heads up display here. And if you follow the arrow down from the heads up, and let me bring everyone to me over here just so you can. All right. So if you see down here, everyone's got, well, pick a heads up display and remember your number, like A2, A3, because you're going to have to tell that to your partner as they're interviewing you, because they're going to put the answers on the heads up display. So go ahead and pick one, put your name on it at the top there where it says your name here, just double click to add it. And grab that. And what this is going to be, we're going to create your kind of creative heads up display. I'm going to call it a HUD as we go through this, right? We're on your space journey here, and it's your creative head display. And we're going to create this kind of creative profile for you that is going to showcase some of your truths and the themes coming out of that and some of your archetypes. And this is, you know, what we're going to do today. You could always grow and evolve this and use this in your kind of future interactions of creating, you know, these truths and archetypes around yourself, and maybe even leading into your own personal brand. That's going to kind of fuel your personal brand. All right. So has everyone found theirs? Write their name. We've got everyone kind of writing their names. Awesome. All right. Now, what you're going to do when we break you out is we're going to ask these 3 questions. If you see them at the top left of your heads up display, what moment made you the happiest in your life? And if you look at the example I have here, this is actually mine, right? So marrying my hubby was my moment that made me the happiest. and just some thoughts and feelings of what was happening. It was an understanding of an equal partnership for me. There was respect and love hand in hand. There were close connections. We had a very small ceremony and relaxed environment, right? And then think about what moment made you the most frustrated in your life. Why did you feel this way? What was happening around you? And for me, that was actually earlier this year, being laid off without warning. Shock and questioning of my worth, lost with a lack of clarity, realization I could not be creative there, right? Think about all those feelings. What was happening around you? What were you feeling? Who was with you? What made you frustrated? And then the last question here, what are you most proud of? It could be personal growth, professional, anything really. So I'm really proud of running my own consulting business, right? And what are those thoughts and feelings around that? That made me feel empowered, independent, freedom. I get to make my own rules, creating, amazing collaborations and connections. And so what I want you to do, we're going to go ahead and break everyone into the breakout rooms here. I want you to ask these 3 questions to the partner that you're with in your room. You're going to have about 10 minutes in there, so 5 minutes each. Switch off, ask all 3 questions first to your partner, and then have them ask all 3 questions to you. And what you're going to do find your partner's heads up display, and as you're interviewing them, write some of the themes you hear, just as I did in that example. You're not going to write them for yourself. You're going to write them as you listen to your partner. Does that make sense? If anyone doesn't understand, just drop something in the chat and I'll explain more. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do that, break out into the rooms, and then we're going to all come back and think about how to look for those themes out of those things. Everyone ready to go? We pumped? Get pumped. Come on, guys. Get pumped. All right. Yeah. All right. All right. I know this is a little bit vulnerable here, but, as much as you're comfortable with, try to, reach and answer those questions. All right. Jessica, you ready to? Yep. All right. It looks like someone might have to skip the breakout here. So I don't know. You see that, Jessica?
Yeah. So people are already doing the breakout, and if there's one person, I'll just jump in there.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, cool. Simone, leave you guys.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Did you guys have a good time talking to each other? Did everyone get through at least some of the questions? Yeah? All right. Fantastic. And, this is something you can continue. I have a worksheet we can send out afterwards with these questions. If it's something that you want to, someone didn't have enough time there. That's okay. If you want to continue to answer your own questions on your heads up display as we're talking through some of the things that people said, feel free to pop some things in there so you can look for themes in the next step. I know we only have an hour together. It's kind of hard to get all that in. So what I want everyone to do now is we're going to launch a little poll here, and I want you to type in the poll something that you learned about your partner's experiences, and just kind of type that in there and share it with the group here. Go ahead and just submit your answer when you're done there. We've got some relatable, how much we have in common, a fundamental role of having a dog. Well, that's fantastic. And we were just listening to my dog participating here as we were going through the workshop. They're great at their job, happy when being present in the moment. That's a really great one that you can kind of get into themes in the next step here. Let's see what else we got. Lifelong learner. I myself am one of those, and values genuine connection with people. It sounded very familiar. So, maybe us share a lot of values here, and maybe that's why we're in the same creative community. That's people who are driven to like people. Learn from find people with similar feelings, learn from Annie about how the happiest moments can be the simplest ones where you enjoy nature, having a cup of tea. We learned about wonder in another session today. That's, simple moments and wonder. Creative thinking into systems. All right. Anyone else have anything that they learned or want to share about? All right, let's see. I'm gonna like this the dog one there. Super important, dogs. All right. Now, how did everyone feel about that exercise? Many times you ask these questions of yourself, and sometimes it's easier when you go into that interview format. Your cat is extremely jealous. I also have a cat, and she gets very jealous and vocal. So when you're asking other people these questions, it gives a little bit more a conversational place for you to open up to each other about these things, instead of just sitting in front of with a worksheet and a blank page and trying to answer those questions yourself. However, you can actually answer those yourself. Go and explore these after this session. The goal here is to think about behaviors in your life. Think about things that you've experienced, instead of sitting down there with a list of values and being like, oh, I value honesty, and I value integrity, and I value creativity. Start with the behaviors. Start with how you felt. Start with those questions that we asked, and then turn those behaviors into what your truths are. And there's a lot of different activities and ways to do this, and I have some resources at the end of the workshop here. One of my favorites is from the book Great Mondays, and it's about how to start with culture catalysts. And this is in particular for team members or people in your company, where you actually call out behaviors that represent the culture, and then you go ahead and pull out themes from those. So always starting with behaviors is going to really get you to more of your truths, instead of trying to pick from a vocabulary list of values that we see all over the place. All right, so let's go ahead, and I think we've got everyone in the poll here. Let's get back to the Miro board. All right, so what I want you to do, and I know not everyone had a lot of time, so think through your questions here. If your partner didn't have a time to interview you, just kind of write down some high level things so that you can pull out your own themes here. So I'm gonna bring everyone to me real quick here on the board, and look here at how from the things that I talked about, I pulled out some themes, right? So something that was pervasive in every question, or 2 out of 3 of your questions that you answered there, what were some of those patterns, those themes? So for me, connection showed up in a lot of different things. Like, I value connection with people and partnership, collaboration. Creativity was part of my themes there, because in my worst moment, I felt like I didn't have creativity. So I knew that was important to me. And then unconventional. I would say aim for anywhere between 3 to 5. And go ahead and pull those out onto your heads up display. And if anyone wants to talk through theirs, if anyone has any questions as we're doing this, please raise your hand, let me know. Let's get some people talking. All right, let's see. Isabel, you're rocking. You do your own. Someone was asking if you should do your partners or your own. Do your own. Look at what your partner.
Isabella is doing mine and I'm doing hers.
Oh, well, that works too. Fantastic. That's great, because now you're getting the perception of the perspective of your partner. That's great as well. All right. Does anyone have any trouble pulling out those themes and wants to talk through them? anyone discovering anything new about themselves that they were like, oh, I didn't know about that before. I didn't know that from my happiest moment. That was something that I could consider a personal truth. Yeah, Cheska?
Not really discovering, but I think one of the most interesting things about the exercise you took us through is that it keeps things so simple. Like at the root of it, like what are the things you're happiest about, most frustrated about, and most proud about? Like kind of makes you think about those things and how it aligns with what you're doing now. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a very different way to think about it in a narrative, right? Think about it in a story. If you think about your truths in kind of this narrative way, another activity I love to do around truths and values is what I call stand for and against. And you ask, your group or yourself, if you were making picket signs, protest signs, what would you stand for and what would you stand against? All right. Awesome. A little bit of time here. And I'll make sure we get that. Someone mentioned in the chat here about wanting the worksheet with those questions. I've got that all set as a PDF, and I can have that sent out after our session. All right. Give me a little thumbs up when you're done, or a yay, or a boo. I don't know if you. All right. Awesome. Fantastic.
I think since many people are done, you wanna end the timer shortly?
Go ahead and do that.
Well.
Looks like we've got a lot of people done. Who had a trouble pulling out their themes? What was the hardest part about this for you? Anyone want to share with the group?
Feel free to use the cue, guys.
Yeah.
It's the hand icon.
You can use a little looks like this off to the side there. Or maybe it looks like this. All right, Carolina.
Okay, so not only Isabel and I have been doing the exercise opposite, obviously, because he's still in the exercise, but what I also found interesting is the fact that none of us could name one moment. Yes, so we are not that kind of people who will give you the answer like what is the happiest in your life and what is the unhappiest in your life. Is like, the feeling is more complicated, and around that I can see that we have spontaneously look kind of similar words. So I'm not looking at my batch yet, so I'm still working on Isabel's.
Got it.
More tricky, yeah. But I would say this is the interesting one, that you don't have to always limit yourself to this one moment in your life. Like thinking, sometimes people are unable to tell you like I like reading, yes, or I like skiing. Like sometimes I feel good, sometimes I don't feel good. It's hard. If I'm a woman, I can change my mind.
Yes, absolutely. And that changing of the mind is actually something that we're going to talk about a little bit here. Well, even as we're doing our truth and we're doing our archetypes, these are supposed to be things that are flexible. They change and evolve as you change and evolve. You might have some core truths, but archetypes and how you're feeling at any certain time, those are supposed to change with you. All right, so you might have a dominant, well, actually, that's a lovely transition. Good job. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about archetypes here. If anyone's still working on their heads up, is someone unmuted there? Cheska, can you?
To look for it now. Give me a moment.
Oh, okay. All right. So what is an archetype? So is anyone familiar with archetypes in any sort of way, whether it's with writing or with branding? Is anyone already familiar with them? Give me some sort of emoji, thumbs up. If you are, yep. All right. So for those of you who are not, and those of you who are still, right? So archetypes are grounded in psychology. So they're universal patterns and truths in human behavior. And why should we care about those, right? So they reside in the unconscious and influence our behavior and trigger emotions without us even knowing. So they're this behind the scenes kind of driving our motivations, driving our inspirations, driving. Yes, I can bring everyone to. Yes. There we go. We are right here. All right. So they're also flexible. You might have a dominant archetype in your personality, but that can change as you change. It could change as you in the different points of your life and the different points of your career. And insight into your archetypes can help you better understand yourself, your potential, those connections. And why that's so important in creative communities is it's how you show up, right? What can you leverage as moving towards your truths and using your archetypes in the creative communities you're part of to make the most of that community? How do you align with that community's mission? How do you align with the goal? And how do you give back to that community and make the most of it? All right. So what I'm going to have you all do now, I'll bring you to me here. We're going to take a little archetype quiz. Personality quiz. Don't worry, it's not hard and it's super short, promise. So if everyone go ahead and click the upper right, and it will open up a quick little archetype quiz for you. And if you go ahead and take that quiz, and then make sure to take a screenshot of your pie chart at the end so you have it for yourself. And then we're going to go ahead and pick your badges. So yep, and there's the quiz also in the chat if anyone would like it. So go ahead and take a moment to take that quiz and then grab your pie chart and then just give me a little notification in the chat, say I'm done when I'm done, and we're going to use those top 3 archetypes in our next activity. So this is only one. Whoop, music, get some music going on there. There's a lot of archetype quizzes out there. The reason I chose this one for this particular workshop is you don't have to add your email or anything to get the results, and it's super quick. Got a little over a minute left here. How's everyone doing? Awesome. Francesca, explorer. Got Casper's 63% creative. I'm pretty up there on the creative scale too. Barbara, 60% creative, 30% intellectual. Got Lexi, 46% intellectual. Carolina, visionary. All right. As you're done that, we're gonna, I'm gonna let everyone kind of finish up here in the last couple of seconds. Oh, you're very close to me, Anna Maria. And Annette. All right. Has everyone had a chance? We got Isabel, visionary, creative. Everyone's got some really interesting mixes here. So I'm going to bring everyone to me on the board here. All right. And what we're going to do now is you're going to find your badges in the little supply closet here. And if you look at the example off to the left here, you're going to drag them to your little heads up display and put your percentages with them. You can either drag it or you can copy and paste it, whichever is easier for you. Bring it over to your HUD and start to complete your creative community profile over your personal profile over here. And then as we're going through the end of this and talking about how to use this, feel free to take a screenshot of your creative community heads up display here. Use it for your own. Feel free to share it. You know, this is for you to kind of look back to, build upon, continue to build out as you discover things about yourself. Let's see. Everyone's got theirs. All right. I love seeing all the badges. It reminds me of like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, you know, like bringing your badges here.
That is true.
All right. As you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and talk through these. Got a lot of creatives there. So I've got a big percentage of creative on mine. And if you look, after you're done that, I don't want to bring everyone to me right now because you're still putting the stuff on your heads up displays, but over there, we've got a little description of each of the badges. The top words there are what that archetype is, and then what it thrives on, and maybe some of the fears. And then I'm going to talk a little about some of the weaknesses too, which you can leverage as you go into the creative community and challenge yourself as these archetypes. So the creative, right? We're inspirational, innovative, experimental, imaginative. Thrives on originality and self-expression, but they fear that duplication. Yes, I can. Is everyone ready? All right, I'll bring everyone to me. All right, there we go. So they might have a fear of duplication, being the same as someone else, inaction or stagnation. So we've got a lot of creatives here in your mission in your creative community, and there's lots of things you can do. But one of the things I pulled out for you to challenge yourself is challenge yourself to develop your talents without fear of failure. So if you're part of a creative community and you want to be creative, but you might have a fear of sharing that, you might be stuck in the creative process and not on that action of sharing it out. Challenge yourself to both develop those creative talents and share that out without fear of failure. And let's move over to the athlete. I don't see any athlete over here. Did anyone get athlete?
Okay,
No.
seem like it.
All right. Well, let's skip over that one for now. But the athlete, they're all about the performance of things, and not necessarily competing, although a weakness of them is that they can delve into competition too deep. If you think about the rebel, all right, did we have any rebels? Oh, that surprises me. Did anyone get rebel? Give me a thumbs up if you got rebel.
Somehow it has counted my rebelness as an advocate.
Oh, okay. Well, so like I mentioned, there are a ton of different archetype quizzes. This is just a quick one that we could do within an hour. Thinking about these, I'm going to read through all of them. You might feel a tendency towards another one than the ones that you got in your quizzes. So the rebel, right? Wild, bold, free-spirited, thrives on independence and change. Fears that conforming to a group, and that complacency. So if you have that rebel archetype, your mission, should you choose to accept it in your creative community, right? Challenge yourself to not let your emotions take control while still having a place, right? You want to acknowledge the emotions, but rebels sometimes could have very high emotions. So challenge yourself to create that balance in your creative community. The caregiver, I saw a couple caregivers there. Nurturing, supportive, protective, reassuring. They fear this selfishness. There we go. Got that one out. Instability. So in your creative communities there, right, challenge yourself to make time for yourself. So people in creative communities that are caregivers, right, they're always giving, right? They might have the inability to say no. Challenge yourself to give that time back to yourself with the community. Get something out of it for yourself. There's a balance between that I don't want to say taking things from, accepting things from the community and giving things to the community. All right. We had a lot of visionaries in there. I saw some visionaries. So those are tenacious, inspirational. They fear that boredom and monotony. And so an interesting thing with visionaries, right? Your challenge to yourself and your community should be, make sure your vision is not only to please others, right? So it's this balance that you're not putting that vision out there to please others or do something for others, that there's a part of that for yourself, that there's a vision for yourself. All right. The royal, I don't think I saw any. Did we have any royals there? So we'll do this one. What's that?
Oh, there's one?
No. Is there?
Nope.
Maybe? All right. So these are more refined, powerful, exclusive, and they thrive on this influence and status, but they fear failure and weakness. And so your mission as a royal, right, you want to challenge yourself to commit to collaboration or compromise instead of kind of being up there, using the analogy, on your throne. So the performer, entertainer, you might also hear this sometimes as the joker. So these archetypes have matched the quiz that I had you all take, but there are some great resources on different archetypes that I have here for you at the end. I'm in love with archetypes. They're like my favorite thing ever. So performers thrive on entertainment. They fear gloom and negativity and sadness. And so you should challenge yourself to use your energy and fun-loving self to find new and different ways around obstacles. So kind of heading those obstacles or challenges straight on and using that archetype, using that personality to find new ways around those obstacles. All right, let's see, spiritual. I did see some spiritual there. I think, Lexi, you've got some spiritual in yours. So idealistic, humble, purpose-driven. They thrive on healing and doing good. They fear that suffering and manipulation. So for those spiritual archetypes, challenge yourself to create balance, not just within, don't focus only on the spiritual, create balances with your other needs in life, right? And spiritual might influence that, but make sure you have a full life, a full balance. So in a creative community, make sure that there's balance. All right. So tastemaker, I don't think I saw that. This is an interesting one because I think it's actually very specific to this particular quiz, but I found it interesting. They're self-assured, influential, they're on trend. They fear being ordinary, and they fear having a lack of influence. So for tastemakers, it's really important to challenge yourself to make sure you're staying authentic and genuine and not just riding that trend. All right, so explorer, Cheska, I saw you had explorer. I think we had a couple other people. Lexi, Casper, I think you had some explorer in there. So brave, independent, self-sufficient, thriving in that freedom, making life count. They fear confinement and standing still. I could totally see how this is you, Cheska. All right, so what you want to do as an explorer sometimes is to challenge yourself to live in the moment and appreciate what you're experiencing as you're experiencing, right? So sometimes the explorers have this aimlessness. I'm just going to go out and do everything and all the things, right? So the challenge here is to experience that in the moment as you're doing it. All right, advocate. So we've got advocates that are energetic and passionate, and they fear that negativity and that cowardice. You want to challenge yourself to appreciate your work, even if it doesn't feel like enough. So advocates sometimes have that feeling of doing all these things, it's just not enough. I got to do more, right? But challenge yourself to appreciate. Sherry, that's spot on for you. Awesome. But appreciate that. Appreciate your work. Appreciate what you're doing. And experience that in your creative communities as well. Last one here, we've got the intellectual, right? This is totally me. Knowledgeable, informed, wise, but they fear misinformation and inaccuracy. But the weakness here, where it's totally me, is analysis paralysis, right? So you want to challenge yourself as an intellectual. Your mission is to challenge yourself to not overanalyze or get stuck in that analysis paralysis, right? You can do your research, but make sure you have a bias towards action, right? So there's some of this inaction falls into this last archetype. So that's a lot of me talking. And I want to get you talking in our last piece here with the checkout. All right, so I'm going to bring everyone to me. And from what you learned about your own archetypes and your own truths, I want you to think about how are you going to apply that? The missions we talked about, the truths you discovered, how are you going to apply that in your next interaction in your creative community? It could be the butter community. It could be, go ahead and write it on the post-it here or drop it in the chat, whichever you want to do. How are you going to, what's that moment look like for you? And I'm going to pop the butter mission and values, find a new job. Well, then, that's a good one, right? And when you're thinking about, I actually mentor people and help them find their values and look for jobs based on that. It's the same thing with a job as a creative community. Look at the culture of that job and do those values match your own personal values? And that's something really important to consider up front. So I just popped the butter community mission, vision, and values in there. And some of their values are act with a hive mind. So if you discovered that collaboration was one of your personal truths, that's very much in line with the butter community, right? Or be bold and curious if you had that little rebel tendency. Celebrate every viewpoint if that inclusivity was a part of your truth. All right, let's see. Live in the moment more. Who wrote that one?
I did, Sherry.
Sherry, tell us, how are you going to do that?
Well, what you said about the traveler rings so true. It's hard for me sometimes to it's always the next thing. I just planned a 14-day trip and I'm already thinking about the trip after that. And just being more intentional of, this time together.
Fantastic. Don't know yet. That's absolutely okay. Because you got to think about these things sometimes. You got to learn about yourself, right? This is not, you're going to have an epiphany overnight. Remind myself of the bias towards action. Who wrote that one?
That was me again.
Oh, fantastic. I know. I saw you had written a note in the chat about that when we were talking about that as well. Looking for archetypes that complement me. Who wrote that one?
Me.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, it just, I think I was the paralysis analysis person. So looking for other people that, you know, are different, that won't let me get stuck.
Yeah, and that's another thing about your truths and your archetypes, right? There are other archetypes that complement you, right? It's not always good to have a room full of creatives or a room full of intellectuals, right? You want that complement and diversity of thought. And that's what you're going to get from creative communities, right? You're going to get some people who are those full creative, and you saw it even from in the chat there. You saw some people, but from the butter team even, right? They work all together, but they're not all the same. So sorry, I'm putting you guys on the spot there.
No, but you're completely right. I mean, that's one of our values, right?
There you go.
About making the world smaller.
Fantastic. Let's see. We're going to have time for one more here. This is interesting. I personally think archetypes are a bit limiting. I agree that they're only a piece of the puzzle. Who wrote that? Talk to me about it.
Anyone want?
Is that Barbara?
Okay, so
it was me. Yes.
Yes. All right. Tell us about that.
I'm just not a fan of anything that tries to label us. That includes the archetypes. To be completely honest, and I sometimes think I come across as a little bit harsh, but this seemed a little bit like pseudoscience to me, like Myers-Briggs kind of thing.
Yep.
So personally, I wouldn't use it. I think it's a good start if you want to start your journey of self-awareness. But I would recommend people not to stop there and go dig a little bit deeper and not go not make a religion out of archetypes. And you mentioned that yourself. Thank you so much for doing so.
Yes, and I completely agree with that. I'm actually not a fan of a lot of different personality types. I think they're very limiting as well. I think archetypes are a starting point, right? And they're also supposed to be flexible, right? You're not supposed to be, I'm a creative today. That means I am always 50% creative, right? Things change. Your personality changes. The things around you changes. Your environment changes. These are just kind of a starting point. And they're actually really helpful in branding to help, personal brands or company brands get a start to that, right? I usually don't do the quiz thing, and I have a lot more activities to help define these. We just did not have time for that today, and I wish we did. So, all right. So we're towards the end here. Unfortunately, I would love to have more conversations with you, but I want to show you here. I'm going to bring you all to my little resource board at the end here. And here's some other resources that I was talking about. And the Great Mondays value activity that I was talking about is under the values resources here. And here's some other archetype resources. I'm a big fan of not having a one source of truth for these types of things. That's why there's multiple books about archetypes on here. And then a quick article I wrote about the importance of creative communities. You've got all my contact information over there. And if you want to leave me a note, feel free to leave me a note there and I will reach out. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rachel, for bringing us through that. I think as you guys mentioned, right, it's a great starting point for us to sort of understand our personal truths, what we really value, and finding our own communities based off of that. So thank you so much for sharing that exercise with us. And thank you, everyone, for joining this event. Thank you. You all deserve a round of applause. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And Rachel, you're actually the penultimate session we have for today. So
oh my goodness.
Yes.
All the pressure. Jeez.
No, so for anyone else who wants to hang out with us, we do have the networking event after. So please feel free to join us if you're still up for it. Okay. And thank you all for joining right on time as well. So cool.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
everyone.